Welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. I am Nate. Today's episode is a pre-fight show of UFC 162, going over the main card. But before we get to that, let me show you some of the fighters I've met that are fighting on UFC 162, including on the prelims. To kick it off, somewhere in the mix in the prelims is Edson Barboza. Yeah, I know it's a cheap camera. Old camera phone, I don't use it anymore. Got that picture a while back. Cool guy, real fan friendly. Good luck, Edson Barboza. He's fighting Rafaello Oliveira. Rafaello Oliveira is pretty tough. And then I've also met Tim Kennedy, who's fighting on the main card against Gracie. Good luck, Tim Kennedy. I think you can win. Especially, he's a smart fighter. He should be able to stay away from the ground game of Gracie. Get a good, maybe, decision win. Here's Mark Munoz fighting Tim Boetsch. Go kick some butt. Filipino wrecking machine. And Cub Swanson, also on the main card of UFC 162, our local boy, fighting Dennis Siver. Good luck. Hope you have a good fight. And also, I've met Stephan Bonner, who is getting inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame on this July weekend of the fight of UFC 162. Yeah, Stephan Bonner, as you all know, he is retired. And he's getting inducted in the Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Stephan Bonner. Yeah, a lot of exciting fights coming up. And, wow, this fight card is just stacked. Stacked. I mean, in the prelims, you got Gabriel Gonzaga versus Dave Herman. You got Edson Barboza, Rafaello versus Rafaello Oliveira. And a fight I'm really paying close attention to is Andrew Craig versus Chris Leben on the prelims. Andrew Craig is a fellow Texan. He's 8-1 in his overall MMA record, 2-1 in the UFC. In his one loss, he could have won that fight had he won one of the rounds. So, let's kick off the pre-fight show for UFC 162, which the main event is for the middleweight championship. Anderson Silva defending his middleweight title versus Chris Weidman, undefeated, 9-0. Let's start off with that. Yeah, Anderson Silva, they say he's the greatest pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I don't know. It's tough to say who is truly the greatest pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I'm leaning towards Renan Barão still because he's on a 30-fight or so win streak. He out-wrestles wrestlers, out-grapples grapplers, out-strikes strikers, wins by knockout, decision, submission, however he sees fit, has no cardio issues. He's still young, so has a ways to go. He's dominated his weight class. He's a UFC champion, and he could move up to featherweight, and who knows what he'll do there. So yeah, you got Anderson Silva going up against Chris Weidman. I think I got to say this is a pretty lopsided fight. I know you all laugh if I'm wrong, but Chris Weidman, I got, believe it or not, a 75% chance of winning this fight, because Chris Weidman, he's good on the stand-up. He'll keep a good distance, close the distance wherever need be. And his ground game is phenomenal. He's a great amateur wrestler. He's great at jiu-jitsu. So this could turn into what some people say a repeat of Chael Sonnen, Anderson Silva 1. But in this case, Chael Sonnen, or in this case Chris Weidman, won't get submitted because his submission defense is up to wazoo. And Chris Weidman has wrestling, and Anderson Silva has struggled against wrestlers. Chris Weidman is a wrestler. He'll probably be smart to use his wrestling And Anderson Silva, I could picture going for a submission off his back, and then Chris Weidman defending the submission, landing a couple good shots on top position, and either winning by knockout or decision. And if he wins by decision, it'll be a clear-cut unanimous decision. And if Chris Weidman knocks out Anderson Silva, it will be probably in the second or third round. I can picture that. Then on to the co-main event, we got featherweights, Frankie Edgar versus Charles Oliveira. And yeah, both these guys are coming off losses. Frankie Edgar's coming off 3 losses. Charles Oliveira got his butt whooped by my boy Cub Swanson. I mean, butt whooped, and Charles Oliveira, from my understanding, complained about it. Cry me a river, cry me a river. I'm sure he cried a very big river, you know, like really big, you know. Got knocked out by Cub in the first round at UFC 152. And yeah, I guess I'll go with Frankie Edgar on this because he has more tools, and this should be a fairly easy win for Frankie Edgar. I could picture Frankie Edgar defending the submissions from Charles Oliveira, keeping the fight standing, landing more shots per round, winning a unanimous decision due to strikes and aggression. But I'm sure Frankie Edgar will be smart, stay away from the ground game. Charles Oliveira will try to take it to the ground but not get it. So Frankie Edgar by unanimous decision I got in that co-main event. Then we got in the middleweight division, Tim Kennedy versus Roger Gracie, both Strikeforce guys, both good middleweight fighters. Tim Kennedy has fought for a Strikeforce middleweight belt. Roger Gracie is 6-1, and Roger Gracie has won pretty much all his fights by submission, which he's a Gracie, big shocker there. Yeah, Tim Kennedy is coming off a win over Trevor Smith in Strikeforce, and Roger Gracie's coming off a win over Anthony Smith in Strikeforce. And I gotta go with Tim Kennedy winning by decision on this one. Roger Gracie will probably go for a submission or two at least. Tim Kennedy, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, not Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu. So he has some good ground game. I wouldn't say it's on par with Roger Gracie exactly, but it's good enough to not get submitted. He might get taken down once or twice, but he'll pop up. Tim Kennedy could win by knockout, but I got Tim Kennedy probably winning by a close, hard-fought, unanimous decision. Maybe 29-28. Roger maybe getting one of the rounds. Tim Kennedy getting the other 2. Then in the middleweight division, another middleweight fight on the main card, we got Mark Munoz versus Tim Boetsch. Both these guys were top contenders at one point. Unfortunately, both lost. I'm a fan of both. And Mark Munoz, last fought Chris Weidman, got destroyed in the second round. Was getting destroyed in the first round and finished off in the second round. Tim Boetsch come off loss to Casa Philippou. That was a pretty brutal loss. Yeah, he got dominated and pounded out in round 3 to Casa Philippou. And I gotta go with Mark Munoz probably wins. You know, I gotta say maybe by decision on this because they both have great wrestling. And Tim Boetsch has heavy hands, but Mark Munoz has a speed. I'm a fan of both these guys. I'll say Mark Munoz wins by probably 30-27 unanimous decision. Just lands a little bit more strikes, barely avoids the heavy hands of Tim Boetsch. And Tim Boetsch has cardio issues. I'm a Tim Boetsch fan, but I gotta admit, there's cardio issues there. So, Tim, if you're watching, please work on that. But you're a great fighter. Love you, man. Then, also on the main card, we got another featherweight fight. Yep, Cub Swanson versus Dennis Siver. Dude, this fight is a dream match. Dream come true. Fan of both of them. Either one could easily win this. But I gotta go with Cub Swanson wins in the first or second round. I am slightly favoring him in this match. I say he has an over 50% chance of winning, let's put it that way, of winning this by first or second round knockout, because he has heavy hands and he trains with the great Tim Bradley, boxer, welterweight boxer champ. And yeah, Dennis Siver has great kickboxing, great jiu-jitsu. Cub probably has a slightly better jiu-jitsu. Not drastically better, but I mean it's pretty even on the jiu-jitsu. Dennis Siver has very underrated jiu-jitsu. A lot of people underestimate it all the time, and I'm sure Cub is training hard and being smart about the ground game, and Greg Jackson's really showing him some good takedown defenses and submission defenses, and which I'm sure Cub already has a lot of that. And so I got, yeah, Cub winning first, second round, maybe landing strong right hand, probably right hook. So yeah, that wraps up the main card. And then yeah, honorable mentions on the prelim is Edson Barboza, Rafaello Oliveira, and which is a lightweight fight, and then Andrew Craig, Chris Leben, middleweight fight on the prelims. And then the prelims also have Gabriel Gonzaga versus Dave Herman. Gabriel, I hope you win. Yeah, that wraps up the pre-fight show for UFC 162. And yeah, good luck to all my buddies, all my favorite guys fighting on this card. I'm really keeping a close eye on this one. I think this one will blow away the last pay-per-view for sure. The last pay-per-view wasn't too bad either. So until then, see you. Oh, and hold up. Post-fight show should be this coming weekend, late Saturday, early Sunday-ish. So stay tuned for the post-fight show of UFC 162 on Nate's MMA Corner. Until then, see ya.